to Equestrian Trailblazers. I am delighted to be joined by Randi Thompson. And in terms, hi Randi, and in terms of being super accomplished, I don't think there's anything that Randi hasn't achieved in connection with riding and in training horses. Everything from barrel racing to dressage to gaited horses to jumping. Randi is an author, an innovator, a speaker, an expert witness, and an equestrian business consultant, and she is definitely a trailblazer. She is known as the trainer's trainer because she has an amazing ability to be able to teach feel to riders and then teach trainers to teach feel to riders. She has got so many awards and accomplishments, I can't name them all, but she has also developed her own system, which is called Horse and Rider Awareness, which concentrates on teaching balance and feel to the riders. She has presented at all of the biggest equestrian events across the world, including WEG, but she still makes time for her local pony club. So Randi, welcome, and can you tell us all how you get started? I imagine you must have come from a horsey family and been steeped in this from you were born.
No, actually, I was one of those that did not come from a horse family at all. My passion with horses began in my dreams. And I don't really understand where it all started. I think one of the issues my mother always had with me was the first word out of my mouth was horses.
So how did that then develop? You fell in love with horses when you were young. Did you have your own horse?
I had my first horse when I was 12 years old. I was able to save up money. I was selling seeds and cards door to door and babysitting. And my parents allowed me to have a horse because they came from a farming background. So my father's sisters had farms where we could get free feed. And my parents told me they would supply the feed as long as I paid for everything else.
Wow. And what age were you then?
12 or 13.
Gosh. And so how did your riding develop? Did you get trained locally, or how did all of that happen?
There were no trainers or instructors in the area that I was from, so my greatest teachers were my horses. I had no clue what to do. I started bareback riding. In fact, the first time I got on a horse was when my first horse came home, and my father unloaded him from a cattle truck, one of those big open trailers. But we didn't, that's what everybody did then. But he took this horse out and put the bridle on him and put me on the horse and slapped him on the rump. That was Sundance by the way. So the horse took off, bolted, running down the road, and I could hear my father yelling, pull on the reins, pull on the reins. But I didn't even know what reins were. And finally I was able to pull on those, I figured out I had to pull on something, and the horse sliding stopped, and I flew 20 feet before I hit the ground. But this is interesting to know. I bought the horse from my uncle. And when I told him the story, he told me that the horse was a barrel racer. And I had no idea what a barrel racer was.
I've actually said barrel racing, but I don't know exactly what it is. Can you explain that?
Well, I haven't done it for a long time, but barrel racing is a form of games that people do with horses, speed events, where they race their horses on a timed course around barrels.
So that's how you learned then. You started off from not riding to barrel racing, taught yourself.
Well, actually, I started out, I probably rode 3 or 4 years before I started barrel racing. I rode bareback through the hills of Minnesota.
Oh, I love
I didn't know what barrel racing was, and a local saddle club was doing events, and a friend and I rode by, and we kept seeing them doing these things and having fun. So we rode up in there one day, and the club, the Wasp Riders, pretty much took us in their arms and let us play a little bit. And that was the beginning of me connecting with other horse people and seeing there were other things to do with horses.
Yeah, lovely. Well, but you say that you just taught yourself. How did you learn? You said the horses taught you. How did they teach you to ride?
Well, it's hard to say. I suppose it would be interspecies communication. It just happened. Nobody taught me how to steer a horse. Nobody taught me how to ride. I simply got on a horse and did what I did, and the horses, God bless those horses, they took such good care of me.
Yeah. But did you watch films or anything? You must have seen films just of an idea, or did you just have this innate natural ability of what it was you needed to do?
The only TV we had 2 channels at that time, was Theory the Brave Stallion. That was the only thing I could see. So that was all I had to base on. Now, as I progressed, my parents would let me bring in horses as long as I paid for anything other than the feed. I had to get my first horse to train, a green horse. So I paid, I think it was $55 for that horse, and brought him home. And I trained him. By then, I had learned of what they call the Western Horseman magazine. So I started training horses with that, and that's a very limited type of thing. But, the horse training continued as I made a lot of mistakes. We were training horses in curved bits back then. The long shank bits.
Yes.
Of course, I was still basically riding bareback. But from there, I ended up with other horses, and one of those included a pony, a Shetland pony that I trained with. Have you heard of the Professor Barry School of Horsemanship books?
No, I haven't.
They were big in the United States at the time. They were in all the publications, not even the horse-related ones. And it was a series that this person wrote, and it was my first introduction to the fact that there were other ways to train horses. He basically did trick horses, and so I did trick training with this pony.
So have you got a saddle yet?
By then I had a saddle.
Okay.
A Western saddle, because nobody rode English where I was from.
Yeah. And so what was the next stage then after that, when you'd sort of grown up and you developed your own style? Where did you go from there?
Well, I didn't really have my own style. First I went to the University of Minnesota, and that's where I had my first lessons. I was 18 or 19 years old, and I started saddle seat, hunt seat, and Western at the time. And it was the first time I even learned what a lead was.
Yes. Gosh. And then did you train others, or how did the training of other people start?
Well, I started doing it even before I went to college. For whatever reason, I had a gift with horses, and I was making things up, because I didn't really know what I was doing. But the teaching started when I ended up going through, I was living in Omaha, Nebraska. And while I was there, I realized that one day I had this thought. I was sitting there thinking, the only way that I can stay in the horse industry is if I learn how to communicate to humans.
Yes.
I was still a little dysfunctional, what can I say?
But you could communicate with horses, which was very important.
I could communicate with horses and animals. So that led me into a journey of learning how to work with people, and I got a job at that time that the only way I could get the job was if I also taught riding, as a riding instructor, and I didn't want to teach, but the job made me have to teach in order to train.
Yes.
And I learned as I was teaching, because nobody was teaching me how to teach at that time. It was such a learning curve. I found that the more that I taught, the more I didn't know, and the more I was able to learn about what I was doing.
Yeah.
So that was the biggest change for me with going into instructing other people.
So the big thing that you do that's so different is that you can teach feel to riders. How did that start, or when did you realize that you could do that? Or do you think there's I'm asking 3 questions at once. Or is it, let's go back to the first one. When did you realize you could do that?
Well, I didn't know everybody didn't do it.
Right, okay.
So as I was learning how to teach, I was teaching from what my experience and feelings were. So it came naturally for me to explore in depth what those feelings were, because I didn't realize that wasn't what everybody else was doing.
No, it's definitely not. And when did you then to go on to develop your own system, the horse and rider awareness system?
Well, I slowly started going through different phases of my life. By then I was taking lessons. I'd gone through an International Equestrian College in the United States at the time, Meredith Manor. And I started seeing more of the international riders. While I was there, I was also going to programs with the United States Dressage Federation. And I saw Sally Swift. Have you heard of Sally Swift?
Yes.
Yes, and she was amazing. So she's at these instructor seminars, and she's teaching riding position in a way I had never seen before. And the other instructors were doing like the military style.
Yes.
But when I saw what she was doing and realized that she had started calling what she did centered riding,
Yes.
is when I realized that it was okay to be different.
Yes.
And during that time is when I came up with the name Horse and Rider Awareness. That was a result of Sally Swift's influence.
Okay, and that leads on nicely then to the barrel horse. Tell us
Yes.
about your barrel horse.
Yes. Well, as time progressed, I found that I was teaching more and more instructors, and I started certifying and teaching, coaching instructors, clinicians, and that type of thing for the Horsemanship Safety Association. And while I was up in New York teaching a clinic, we had a lot of people attending. There might have been 18 instructors at that clinic. We ran out of chairs, and I had been doing, the exercises where you sit on a chair and you feel the effect of the rein through the rider's body, or you feel the position and stuff.
Yes.
So we ran out of chairs, and the owner who was there suggested using a barrel, and I thought he was crazy. I was like, why would I want to use a barrel? But we ran out of chairs. So he brought in a barrel, and I put a rider on the barrel with a saddle and started going through the routine, and it changed everything because the barrel was more like a horse. The rider has to put their feet on either side of the horse. You can pretend you're the reins in the front and everything. And that's when I started realizing how important the barrel would be and became.
Yes.
What happened is as more instructors learned it, they were taking it home and they would build this barrel, they would put legs on it, heads on it, tails on it, because their students would have so much fun. So it was a big breakthrough.
Yeah. No, I'm going to build a barrel. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to. I'm
Yes.
going to do that. So what do you think the main problems the problems are that riders have with their position?
I would say the biggest problem that riders have with their position is they're just not taking the time to relax and realize that in order to get a balanced riding position, they're going to make mistakes. They're not going to feel like they're doing it right, and they're not going to know exactly what they need to do. So I found that, people need to consider that even the Olympians are still taking lessons.
Yes, exactly.
So it's a learning curve that goes on forever. The biggest weakness I see in most riders at this time is staying anchored in their lower leg.
Yes.
They've learned a position where they're unconsciously going up on their toes, or they're using their heels to cue the horse or whatever. And as a result, their knees are off the horse, their leg is flapping. They simply don't know how to stay anchored into their lower leg. And that's where the barrel has made such a difference to so many people, is it teaches them to, with the barrel, you put their feet on the ground.
Yes.
And it teaches riders to stay anchored in their lower leg in ways I've never seen done before.
Yes. No,
that hurts.
Yeah, because it's not at the bottom levels of riding or beginners. It's right up through, and I think it's just so important that we do all get the basics right as riders, and we often skim over the basics because we want to jump a class higher, or we want to do the next level in dressage, and we kind of fudge over those things, and then it all comes back to bite us when you do get moved up the levels. It's got to be sorted at some stage.
That's right. I think so. But, we've seen many international jumpers who their lower leg completely comes off their horse.
Yeah.
And they do quite well. They're just not anchored, that's all. And obviously they don't need it, like Rodney Jenkins, you heard of him?
Yes, yeah.
He didn't have perfect equitation, but he won everywhere.
Yeah.
So for some of us, this is important.
Yeah, but it'd be nice to win everywhere and look like Marcus Enning, wouldn't it?
For those like to win.
Pardon?
For those who like to compete and win all the time. Some people are happy simply loving their horse and enjoying it the way it is. They don't care if they ever compete.
Yes. It's interesting what you said as well about some the difference between professional riders and people that are learning. Because I think that professional riders do have a totally different mindset about their riding. They're perfectly happy to make mistakes. You said that it's important that riders just actually get the feel of things and understand that making mistakes is a part of getting better. You can't just get on and be perfect. Nobody can. And so what separates the better riders is that they accept that, they try, they make mistakes, they work out how they can get better, and they practice then to get better. It's very simple.
Well said.
Yeah. So if someone listening was inspired and wanted to follow in your footsteps, what advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, to realize that anything in the horse industry or any passion that a person has with sports or art or anything doesn't magically happen. It takes work. I would suggest that in this day and age, there's access to so many people that you can mentor from or do an apprenticeship with. I would suggest people go in that direction or get some kind of a schooling where they have the foundation that they need. I see so many people that go out there and they hang their shingle and they think people are just going to come to them.
Yeah.
And reality is that's not the way it works. And that goes to, as long as people are looking for a niche, they have to realize one of the things that are most important to be able to succeed is to learn how to network with other people who are in your field, whatever you're specializing in, whether it's dressage or hunter jumper or cross, the eventing.
Yes.
Find other people and network with them, because those people will become your support. You need the support of other people. Don't try to do it yourself.
Yes.
We see so many horse people, and I'm talking the people starting, and even some of the ones that have been a while, in the business, who get stuck in a box, I call it.
Yes.
They go into their local area, they get stuck in their little box, and they don't go outside of that box. And the problem with that is, first of all, they have this big ego that nobody can get into. And second of all, nobody can find them because they're invisible.
Yes. Yes.
So not only do people need to learn how to network better, that's talking, interacting with people, getting to know other people, but they also need to learn how to promote themselves.
Yes.
I see a lot of horse people who simply don't know it's okay to be able to get out there and get comfortable promoting themselves.
Yes, and that most people out there want to help. They're happy to help people when you form part of a network as well. Yeah, that's good advice.
As horse people, we live our passion. We're so lucky to be able to do that. What a gift. How many people can live their dreams like we can?
Yes, that's true.
It's just amazing. And that comes first, we have the desire. Then for those who want to go further and make horses a part of their reality, you have to be able to imagine where you want to go and how you're going to do it. And as long as you're imagining, what most people forget is being able to take the steps to success. Set your goals. See what other people are doing. Thank goodness we live in the time of social media. You can go and join with somebody else's social media network and see exactly the steps they're doing to make themselves a success. And that wasn't available when I was younger.
Yes.
No, we didn't have that at all to learn from other people at that level. The other focus would be to be able to expect the results. It's so hard making a living in the horse industry, as you know, because it is a tough industry. But with our passion, with our goals and everything, we still have to remember to expect the results, because we make a lot of mistakes, as you know,
yes,
to get to where we're going. And we learn that I think we learn that from horses, because in horse training, to do the interspecies communication type of thing, it's a matter of making mistakes to learn how to communicate.
yes.
And I find that's the same with people who are trying to make a living in the horse industry or establish them in themselves. Just get comfortable making mistakes, because we all do. That's how we get to where we are.
Yep, that is brilliant advice. Thank you, Randy. Randy, I love all that you do, and I would urge everybody to go to your website, because there is so much on it. And I think the best part are all of the videos. I love them, the videos that really make the business of getting the basics easy. And as I said, I loved everything you do. And for somebody who is so naturally gifted and self-trained, it is often difficult for somebody like you to understand the problems that most riders have. And you make the enjoyment of riding so much more accessible for so many more people. And on top of that, you've just got such a fantastic attitude to life and to horses. And I really want everybody to pick up on that, because you don't see any obstacles or difficulties. You just see opportunities, and you go from one solution to another in a very matter-of-fact way, I have to say. And that's really quite extraordinary, Randy. So thank you very much for inspiring everybody today, and thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for yours. For those who want to learn more about what I'm doing, you can go to horseandriderawareness.com for more about marketing and that type of thing. You can go to howtomarketyourhorsebusiness.com. And I would like to thank everybody for their time and wish that all of your dreams of success and happiness continue to come true with horses. Thank you so much for sharing this with me.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.